Hey guys, before I start, I have to first say, this video wasn't supposed to be made now. In my schedule, I was actually working on the Pokemon Fire Red retrospective, and finally got the script and footage down. I've been working on it for years as one of my most ambitious videos. But then when I was recording, YouTube just completely, and I mean completely, killed my channel's impressions out of absolutely nowhere. Like, I have never seen the impressions dip this much in a single day, and it utterly ruined me. The algorithm just dropped me like a hot potato, and I couldn't post the retrospective when the algo just actively hates me, so I have to rush out a video by the end of April from scratch. And since these type of videos don't take too long to script or edit, I just figured to make another one to make up. So again, this was not my intention, it's all YouTube's fault, and I cannot understate my hatred of this algorithm. But on the topic, Ben 10's a show I really hold near and dear to my heart, as one of my favorite shows and sci-fi series, with a fantastic concept and the amazing world building and plenty of great episodes and storylines. And I do have some ideas for other videos on the show that should be a lot of fun. I even gave myself an Omnitrix in the last Ben 10 video, but it's undeniably kinda dumb. And that's not a bad thing. I never want to say that being dumb is bad. I'd argue that's a core part of Ben 10's appeal, is its dumb fun nature. It's very silly and unrealistic in a lot of ways, and for people, it's what they love about it. Bad does not equal dumb. Let me make that very clear. And this show has a lot of dumb episodes. I will say some episodes are dumb, but also good and very enjoyable, like the Con of Wrath. That's a fan favorite, even if the entire episode is literally just a giant tiger alien with the personality of Hulk Hogan just yelling at people. And it's so glorious.
For you to learn that nobody can beat me, and did I just use up all my air? Man, Shane Floyd, I'm beating up everybody on the ship but you. I'm gonna call you Baby Man, Baby Man. Did you just eat the baby?
And now my favorite episode is also pretty dumb, about Ben and Gwen trapped in a Sumo Slammers video game. Is it dumb? Yeah. But is it awesome? Hell yeah. So again, just because an episode is dumb doesn't mean it can't be good or enjoyable. It's half the fun of the series. So don't think this video is me hating on the series or this particular series. I don't hate any Ben 10 series. I've done this type of video for Ben 10 Classic and Alien Force, and moving on, I need to do this to Ben 10 Ultimate Alien. Now, Ultimate Alien is probably my least favorite series of the classic continuity. Again, I don't hate it or even dislike it, I just like the other series more. Ultimate Alien is basically just more Alien Force, to the point that the fandom kind of lumps them together as UAF, or Ultimate Alien Force. It keeps the same animation and multi-season story arc structure, and mostly the same tone. There's only two actual differences the show presents. One is that the original Omnitrix was destroyed in the Alien Force finale, as Ben took Albedo's Ultimatrix to replace it, which functions like the Omnitrix, but allows the user to go Ultimate, effectively making new synthetic aliens based off a million years of world-like conditions to make the most combat-focused version of the alien. Pretty cool concept all things considered, and has been a core of the fandom in making new aliens and designs. Second of all is that Ben's secret identity was leaked by a kid, Jimmy Jones, so everyone in the world now knows he was behind all the alien encounters and is a public superhero. And thus, Ben has to deal with the pros and cons of his new celebrity life. And Ultimate Alien follows Alien Force's example on focusing on major story arcs. But admittedly, when that's not the focus, the episodes can be pretty dumb and fall flat. A lot like Alien Force's infamous Season 3. And these episodes aren't usually looked back on too fondly by the fanbase, so sometimes dumb does equal bad. But enough preamble, I'm going to make a top 10 list on the dumbest episodes of Ben 10 Ultimate Alien. Again, I just want to say this is not the worst episodes of Ben 10 Ultimate Alien, just the dumbest and might be subjective. And without further ado, it's hero time! Number 10. Andreas' Fault. The only actual arc episode on this list, and it's really mostly due to the Forever Nights. Now, as I said, it's not really a bad episode, but it's probably the weakest of the Agrigor arc. This arc has Ben having to track down and rescue 5 aliens from the Andromeda Galaxy who were abducted by an Osmosian tyrant, Agrigor, in order to fully absorb their powers to be able to reach the Forge of Creation to become a living god. Andreas was one of them, a tall Paladin with strong body armor that can dig through Earth like it's air. Andreas is actually a super lovable guy, a big brute but a massive simple-minded softie who is really just afraid and wants companionship. The main issue is the Knights and how they're treated. At this point, the show just cannot decide if they want to treat the Knights as actual threats or just complete joke cannon fodder. Thank God the Dagon arc eventually happened to give them some actual focus and dignity, even if it was like mostly because of Sir George and the Dagon itself. It turns out Argent, Kevin's old buddy and series scam artist, basically tricked Andreas to pulling an extortion racket on the Knights by strong arming them to serve him, or else he'll get Andreas to destroy their castles. Half of the episode, they're treated as practically more of a joke than they already are, literally opening the door like they're talking to a salesman, raiding a restaurant to steal its smoothie machines, stealing other food items from restaurants as if they're freaking robbing food from K&D, basically being slaves to Argit, Jimmy literally having a gamer night in full armor as a buddy, shout out to Forever Duke 838, and even just straight up referencing Monty Python.
One of the knights, run away!
It's pretty much the most pathetic the Forever Knights have gotten, and that's really saying a lot. These guys are already pretty much jokes from the start. After this, you just cannot take them seriously as a threat. Which makes it even more baffling when out of nowhere they randomly become the main threat again. Like, what is this? Like, I'm not kidding, Argit literally has this order under his beck and call completely, and this random guy comes up like, hey, let's not do this. And then suddenly I'll realize, hey, we all have weapons, and I'll capture the group and are able to actually kill Andreas? What is this? You can't just randomly change up the knights to being complete washouts to suddenly being able to fight back because one guy said so? None of you tried anything at all? Like, you literally spent half the episode taking the complete piss out of them. You cannot actually treat them as a legitimate threat anymore. Yeah, that's what makes the episode so distractingly stupid. It makes it really weak writing-wise, but there's plenty of good aspects. As I said, Andreas is such a lovable character, probably the most lovable of the Andromeda 5, and his sacrifice at the end to save his new friends and how he's taken by Agor anyway is legitimately heartbreaking. Also, it's probably Argit at its most hateable, and it surprisingly has a lot of good jokes and moments.
Look, you know I love money more than anything in the world.
What did you say?
Almost anything in the world.
They even basically called its own episodes out.
After all the hype, the Alien X smoothie was a real disappointment. Kinda tastes like filler.
Where have I heard that before? Alien X's might as well not exist through most of the show, and completely wasted a slot when they shouldn't even have bothered if they can actually do anything with it. Honestly, the episode almost feels like it doesn't take itself too seriously, which makes the actual time it tries to when it just can't come back from it feel all the dumber. Not a bad episode, but hey, if it's a Forever Night plot, it's gonna be dumb.
There's a door right there!
Number 9. Ben 10,000 returns. Now again, not necessarily a bad episode, but does have some really dumb choices and kind of has an infamous impact on the fandom. So Ben 10,000 is one of the most legendary episodes of the original series, of Ben and Gwen having to go to the future in 20 years where they become the most legendary heroes across the galaxy and stop their future foes. It's one of the best episodes in the franchise and my personal pick for the best episode of the classic series. So Ben 10,000 himself has a big legacy, not only in the show, but to the fandom itself. So him returning an ultimate alien is a major deal. The only problem, that's not the same Ben 10,000. So the show does introduce the idea that every time Ben meets his future self, his future changes after. Actually something that makes sense that changing the past just makes a new timeline. This is Ultimate Ben 10,000, and many people do not like him for one main reason. He doesn't transform. Yeah, really. In the show that's famous for the main character transforming himself into aliens, the ultimate future version of himself is someone who doesn't transform at all. What's the point of this? Ultimate Ben is now able to use each alien's power in human form somehow, and like, why? Why are we doing this? That's like the main appeal of the show. Imagine if in Pokemon people didn't actually catch, train, and battle with Pokemon, they just fight themselves, fusing with Pokemon to get their powers. Oh, wait, that did happen. Yeah, that turned out so well for them, didn't it? Now that alone is dumb, but it's the logistics that make it fall flat because of how many aliens' powers are dependent in their anatomy. We only get somewhat of a physical transformation when he uses Ultimate Humongousaur and grows huge. And people run wild with thoughts on how other alien powers would work like Cannobolt or Goop, making some of the most cursed images this side of the fandom. It's so stupid. Also, people have said it's potentially to cheap out on animation by not making new designs or animations, and kind of hard to agree, the UAF era wasn't really known for its incredible art and animation. Ultimate Ben is at least a little fun by himself, but the fact that his powers completely undermine the entire idea of the show is pretty stupid. It doesn't help that the episode also has stupid ideas, like especially Eon. Eon was brought back from the live action Race Against Time movie, now as a show antagonist, explaining that the movie was him in another timeline. There he at least was sorta nuanced as an envoy of an alien race seeking to revive a species of planetary conquerors, but out of nowhere, Eon was revealed to be an alternative Ben who wants to be the only Ben Tennyson who exists? Literally, why? What's the purpose? That is the dumbest plan ever. Like, 1, you accomplish nothing. 2, there are infinite realities, so you have to somehow destroy infinity, and then what? Like, what do other Bens existing do to you? What about the Cronians? Like, literally, what happened to your original goal? This is literally the dumbest plan ever. You're making this guy look nuanced. This exists purely to make a twist, and it's kind of evident of Ultimate Alien's writing at times. Just kind of forcing a plot regardless if it makes sense, like Murder Ben.
You too, Kevin. I've been watching. You've come a long way. Might even earn that plumber's badge you swiped.
As a menace. Your friendship aside, the only responsible move is to take him down with all necessary force. True. And I'd put him down like a mad dog.
And some other things, like when having a freeze time spell casually. Like, you never thought to actually use that again? Seriously? And Ben just somehow inside of his own transformations. How does that work? Biome's Secret of Chromastone are all forms of Russian dolls with a guy inside. Again, not a bad episode, it's enjoyable, but it gets pretty dumb at times, and come on, no episode that makes these images is gonna get off the dumb list.
That's a fair criticism.
Number 8. Girl Trouble. Fortunately, we're to Ultimate Alien filler, which I don't think it's controversial to say that this series has probably the worst filler of the show. Quinn's cousin on her Anodite side, Sunny, is staying over, and she is literally just a model recolor of Gwen. What do you mean that this series is infamous for model and design reuse? They're so creative! UAF moment! Technically there could be a reason, as Anodites literally just make their own human bodies. You could say Sunny just copied Gwen as the only human she knew, but that is never actually acknowledged. It legit probably is just asset reuse because UAF loves asset reuse. Sunny is more the teenage rebel type, and come to think of it, they're pretty much exactly like Blackfire from Teen Titans, just less overtly evil. It also doesn't help that the main actual thread of the episode is an unexplained generic robot force from another dimension, because another thing UA loves is just generic robots. They're literally just a plot point, they have no actual depth, you could have replaced it with anyone. Sunny tags along for literally no reason and doesn't actually care about the plan they have or the stakes, but at least it's fun to see another Anodite use their powers in a fight scene.
She's pretty powerful. How come you can't do that?
Because shut up.
Hadn't looked at it like that.
God, Kevin is the best character in this show. And then probably the most random dumb thing they did, it turns out Sunny's boyfriend, Antonio she's mentioned before, is actually a random huge hulking troll guy? Like, what? The episode literally just drops it. Okay, but it is actually dumb fun because Antonio, despite his looks, actually has the personality of a hopeless romantic. It's actually pretty great.
Brought you something, my love. A token of a love so strong that no force in the universe can deny it.
Is that tree from the backyard?
No.
Then the episode randomly decides they're the big threat of the episode. Fine, why not? It's not like anyone actually cared about the generic robot plot. Instead, random troll guy is actually strong enough to force Ben to go to Ultimate Humongousaur to stand a chance to defeat. They really just shove the Ultimates in whatever fights they can this series. Again, at least Antonio's a little fun.
Love! Antonio fights for love!
And they actually couldn't defeat Sunny, so they literally called Grandma Verdona back to take her back home. Literally pulling a I can't defeat you, but he can moment. I mean, it's nice to see her again, she's honestly underused in the show, but like, really?
Hi, scary grandma.
Never lose your moxie, Kevin.
Sure thing. What's Moxie?
God, this episode does have its moments. At least Antonio broke up with Sunny since he's clearly a bad influence and got a lot cooler of a design. Shane bad to break up with Esther thanks to shitty writing, but hey, at least he'll treat her better. Yeah, this episode is undeniably pretty dumb, but it does have its fun and goofy moments to make it enjoyable. I mean, what do you expect when this line literally starts to climax?
I'm telling your mom and dad. No!
Number 7. Video games. Now, this episode has a lot of love in the fandom with a lot of relevance outside of the show, and yeah, it's fun. Effectively, Ben has been getting a lot of buzz after his identity was revealed, though largely negative by a new minor antagonist, Will Harang, who's like if J. Jonah Jameson was a Fox News anchor. Ben gets an offer to get his own video game. Man, a Ben 10 video game, imagine if they did that. While Kevin's teaching Gwen to drive, giving us the scene that got memed even outside of the fandom. And what can I say, it's amazing.
You have to treat a car like you treat a woman.
Go on.
No. I sense I've made a mistake of some kind.
God, it's so good. Again, he's the best thing this era gave us. And while making the game, Ben has to use his aliens in mocap suits because they gotta do the animations first. Maybe this is what caused people to incorrectly think the graphics are the first things done for video games idea in their head. Also, to the second biggest joke from this episode.
One of my balls fell off.
But it turns out this was all a scheme by Harang to study Ben's forms and moves and then make him rip off Omnidroid to fight him, able to counter anything he throws at him. Now, not a bad idea, but it's freaking Will Harang. It's like if J. Jonah Jameson made a robot and plastered his face on it to fight Spider-Man. Oh, wait, he did do that. The episode doesn't take itself too seriously, which is kind of obvious for the jokes that became legendary, but the fact that Will Harang of all characters is able to actually make a giant robot capable of countering every alien Ben has is pretty stupid. Vilgax hasn't been this much of a threat to all of his abilities. Like, what is he gonna do against Waybig? Will also just straight up makes a public announcement to fight and potentially kill Ben, and even fires at America's monuments and has literally no comeuppance or consequences for it. What is this? Doesn't help that the Stalker is a pretty stupid and simple design. I actually remember I entered the Ink Tank Stalker redesign contest a few years ago and got a shout out by Kuro, but I swear he called me Shady Phase.
Shady Phase's holographic face has a neat touch to it too. Shady Phase is...
It's not a Shady Phase, Mom. Again, a fun episode that definitely earns its place in the fandom, but still undeniably pretty dumb. But hey, at least Harang was right about one thing.
It's obvious. Everybody loves to watch Ben 10.
Number 6. Double or Nothing. Another episode that has a lot of love in the fandom and a few fan favorites. Ben is being ripped off again, now with the corny stage show, then a crappy cartoon that was literally never mentioned again. They go to see it and find out it does have a perfect imitator as well as actual aliens, but soon find out it was actually Albedo, a Galvan that was forced to turn into a clone of Ben and desperately wants to turn back to normal and made the Ultimatrix. And it turns out he doesn't transform since Ben took his Ultimatrix and instead managed to send a signal to call other aliens to Earth to try and make a stage show off Ben to get by. So this was literally plan A? Make a stage show? You couldn't bum a ride from any of the guys you literally signaled to get back to Galvan Prime? Like, no. I need to audition some actors was the best call? Yeah, that alone is incredibly freaking stupid. Like, I want to remind you that Albedo's last appearance, he single-handedly took down Ben by himself and all his companions. Now reduced to this. Actually, wait, how did he get out of Vilgax's ship? They never showed him escape. But the aliens are real with the final 3, Swamps, Fridge, and Hugh. And they really push the UAF stigma. I mean, Hugh is literally just Humongousaur with glasses. UAF moment. At least Hugh is a bit of a fan favorite since his voice and personality was a Woody Allen parody.
Mind letting me down? I have a major fear of heights. Also of falling and bruising.
Fridge and Swamps are at least fatter. I mean, that's a secret to designing characters, just make them fatter and they're new people. Whoa, who's this new guy? I mean, by UAF standard, this is freaking extraordinary. Though Albedo really can't do anything to stop Ben as he just wants to keep his show running. Like, no joke, he seems legitimately sad Ben's trying to cancel the show, same for the actors.
What? And give up show business? Oh, I am so going to clobber you.
I kind of feel bad for them. It's not like he's ruining his image. I mean, I guess it was sexualizing Gwen when he was 16, so okay, drop that, but still. Like, at least try to get some money out of it by the license. But Hugh comes in saying that Albedo was working on a DNA bond to turn everyone on Earth into Ben Tennyson. Yeah, that's insanely stupid, and worst of all, these guys don't actually question it and stop what they're doing. Only for it to turn out that Albedo was just working on a device to make him human again, and look back and realize, hey wait, that was a stupid idea.
Doomsday bomb that was going to make everyone on Earth look like me? Okay, now that I say it out loud, it does sound kind of stupid.
Turns out Hugh intentionally lied because he loves acting and considers Albedo his friend and can't give it up. And Albedo doesn't blame Hugh for ruining his chance to become normal and blames Ben and attacks. Smartest species in the universe, people. At least the actor guys say they're gonna stick by Albedo after and take care of him. And they never do, they never appear or are mentioned again, not even in the next Albedo episode, so yeah, that went nowhere. Again, this episode is fun, but turning one of the most powerful villains in the show to a crappy, pathetic actor at rock bottom is just so dumb.
Vilgax is kind of a phoebe, but the rest of them are pretty good. No, they aren't.
Come on, even you have to admit this is kind of awesome.
Number 5. Reflected Glory. Now, this episode will be dumb enough, but it's made even worse by its placement in the series. At this point, Agregor has recaptured the 5 aliens he needed and fully absorbed them all to become Ultimate Agregor, a powerful behemoth who's basically indestructible. With his physical form achieved, he can now survive the challenges to attain the 4 pieces of the Map of Infinity, which could leave him with infinite power. Ben and his team have already faltered once with Agregor taking one of the map pieces right from under them, and the end of the episode saying that he might have gotten ahead, but they're gonna stop them if it's the last thing it takes. And what better way to do that than to help out Ben's childhood bullies to make a web show? Yeah, we're really doing this. Now, Cash and JT aren't 2 interesting characters. They kind of peeked at the gauntlet and don't really have a point in the show anymore. They did have one really good moment in the first episode when Ben enters the school with his identity reveals, and they're the first one to applaud him. And I love it because despite how they treated him and had animosity, they understand how much he helped people and even saved them multiple times before, and they're the first to show their things and stand up for him. It's a really great scene, and honestly should have just ended there. This episode has no reason to exist, like at all, and it basically kills the arc momentum. So yeah, basically the 2 randomly want to make a popular web show to bank on the team's popularity, saying that they're the brains behind the operations. I love this line read.
Why didn't you tell me?
Because I didn't want you to go chasing after them the next time you turned into Wrath.
Wrath would never. Okay, good point.
You've got it all. Superpower, girls, fame, girls.
Yeah, you might want to rethink that, but apparently the crew pities them enough to go along with it. Though again, Albedo makes a corny stage show, shut this shit down immediately. But these twerps want to make a web show where they're the real head of the team is a-okay. At least Kevin agrees to it to get some of the income. Maybe Albedo should have done so too. Yeah, it's just so stupid. Why is this an episode? It doesn't even have like any fandom notoriety like the previous dumb episodes. It's just kind of boring dumb. Also, again, the Knights being complete jokes at this point. It doesn't take long before they realize, hey, maybe taking defensive civilians with a camera to our dangerous fights isn't a good idea. However, it gets kind of dumber when Siphon, Vilgax's lackey, shows up saying that if these 2 are the brains of the operation, they need to take them out.
You watched our webcast in outer space?
Oh, yes. I find all of your primitive computer networking endeavors intriguing.
It turns out Siphon is out of nowhere so powerful he can take out one of Ben's ultimates. Like, what? This guy? This guy can defeat an ultimate when even his boss couldn't? And freaking these 2 managed to? Yeah, really dumb episode. Not even a fun one. It's just kind of tedious and dull and just kind of bad.
No one wants to watch you.
Even the internet thinks you're a waste of time.
Number 4. Mother of all Vreedles. Yeah, this one is practically undefendable. You know the Vreedle brothers? Turns out they have a mom. Said mom is one of the biggest criminals in the galaxy. Yes, really. Thing is, they never really back up Mom Vreedle's claim to fame. If anything, it's like an unironic joke. Like this big southern mod just intimidates entire banks and it's treated completely seriously. She's joined by her sons, who at this point have become official plumbers, and forced to help her in her scheme of draining the water of Earth to make 1 trillion clones of her favorite son, Pretty Boy Vreedle, with this obnoxious looking Dr. Seuss machine. Yes, this is the plot, and this is a legitimate threat. The crew somehow struggles to beat the Vreedle brothers and their mom. At the very least, this episode mentions Ben's Necrophrygian kids, which even the show pretty much later forgot.
I'm a mother too.
You are?
Yes.
Where are your kids?
I don't know, in deep space somewhere. That's probably not the best example.
I'm gonna take your son.
I don't have a son. I'm a kid.
And further fun fact, Ma Vreedle is one of the few enemies Ben has never actually defeated. Yes, seriously. Literally, all it takes to defeat her is Gwen just saying, hey, you guys are plumbers, should you like not do this? And then they pull guns on their mom and suddenly she gives up? Really? That's all it took? One of the most feared criminals in the galaxy no one can defeat? Again, just why? This episode is so stupid, not even the fun kind. It's almost like the done that makes you feel it's insulting your intelligence by watching. Thank God at least Omniverse took the character in a much better direction, hilariously ending her reappearance with her actually befriending Ben's mom, and then he has to go to family get-togethers as Sandra treats it like it's normal. It's actually pretty funny. At least Omniverse kind of redeems them, but yeah, in UAF, just dumb.
I would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for my meddling kids. You're grounded. You're all grounded.
Number 3. The Eggman Cometh. Animo episodes are always at least a little dumb, even if they're usually enjoyable. This one is probably the lowest it's ever been. Animo literally makes a commercial starting a business. Look, Animo has never been a subtle villain. His first appearance, he literally rampaged across Washington, D.C. with a T-Rex, not to mention every other time. I don't think it's a stretch to say people should know who he is. This is a super villain on air giving away free eggs to people in Bellwood, and absolutely no one thinks twice, like, come on. This is so obviously a villain scheme, who would take them? I mean, now in this economy it makes perfect sense why people would, but still, these unsurprisingly are mutated and make weird-ass pterodactyl men. Why is he doing this? I don't know, but then again, Animo has never made sense. He's just like, and just mutate stuff to see what happens.
Devolution bomb, which shall turn anyone within the range of its blast into a Yeti.
But I don't know, this is just a lot. It doesn't even feel like Animo. Animo would just make like a massive mutation laser or bombs to pull a Sora and turn people into dinosaurs, not this weird ass pterodactyl-like plan. Like, Animo doesn't make commercials, he makes mutations. They also go to the idiotic dumb sheriff for help when this has literally never been a problem before. Aren't they plumbers? Don't they supersede government officials?
Even though the plumbers are secret, every government on Earth recognizes your authority in these matters.
Animo is a known super criminal, why doesn't he take him seriously? But worst of all, this episode introduced Jury Rig and ew! What is this? What is this gross pants goblin? I think everyone in the Ben 10 fandom agrees that Jury Rig is one of the worst and most unappealing aliens in the franchise. He's so ugly, I hate looking at him. Who thought this was a good idea? Thank God for Omniverse, and I really mean thank God for Omniverse. Like, it's night and day. Look at this. This is a lad, and he's actually a lovable alien there. This is an abomination. This looks like the Creama from the Mookie Show Christmas special.
Baby boy, baby.
Really?
Evil.
Check his browser history, Gwen.
Ben, you should never do that. Also, there's some part of the plan that includes climate change. It's really random and weird and completely pointless. Pretty much this episode in a nutshell. Why are we making an episode about mutant eggs? This is probably the most pathetic and asinine Animo has ever been, and that guy has a huge resume. This is a freaking Dr. Doofenshmirtz plan. So, Betty the Platypus, with my de-evolutionator, I would devolve all the eggs in the tri-state area to dinosaurs that obey me. Everyone knows that chickens evolved from dinosaurs, so there's no way this can fail. Also, the evolutionary ray hits the dumb sheriff who's laughing watching cartoons, and then he gets super intelligent and shuts it out to do a crossword puzzle. What are you trying to say, episode? That adults who watch cartoons are stupid? Come on, say that to my face. Just a dumb episode, and kind of one that affects UAF's legacy. He may be the Eggman, but I am not the walrus.
Out of the way, you dumb cluck.
Number 2. The big story. A lot of these episodes are dumb, but at least they didn't flat out break the series. These last two completely did. We get a Jimmy-focused episode, could be a nice change of pace, but there's a completely unexplained plant monster that falls to Earth Jimmy investigates, and barely escapes from getting the crew to follow. And then the plant entirely off-screen defeats all of them. Yes, seriously, this stupid plant defeated 3 of the most powerful beings on Earth, are you shitting me? And actually took the Ultimatrix. This plant did what Vilgax couldn't. This stupid plant. This is basically Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and no, the plant didn't just shift into the aliens. It uses the actual, real Ultimatrix. And they still can't go after Jimmy. That's literally Humongousaur and Cannonballs, and they're not holding back since they're not actually Ben and can't catch up. Again, this is not done with any hint of irony. This is 100% real. Look at this is so stupid!
Humongousaur.
The reason why the plant couldn't assimilate Jimmy was because he eats peanuts. Seriously, that's its weakness. Frickin' peanuts. Again, not ironically, it just so happens to be deathly allergic to peanuts. What is this writing? So this scene that just breaks the Ultimatrix. Apparently, whoever taps the Omnitrix makes it switch to them, which, oh come on, that makes absolutely no sense at all. This episode just has some of the worst plot writing in the series, and it's not done with a hint of irony, so it feels so goddamn stupid. In fact, I heard someone say that if this ended with it all just being a story Jimmy made, it would all make sense. And you know what? That's actually perfect. He's a Ben 10 fan, a conspiracy nut, and an aspiring journalist. Of course, he'd make his own self-insertion fanfic helping the gang through an invasion of the Body Snatcher story, and brush aside all the stuff that wouldn't make sense. But no, it's all real. What a load. What can I say but dumb, 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 dumb.
I can't believe a salad got the drop on me.
Now for some honorable or, well, dishonorable mention. Hidden where they live. This was close to the list, but I didn't find it too dumb, just kinda bad. Zombozo of all people randomly returns to take advantage of Ben's identity leaking, and targets their families as they randomly team up with Volcanus and Charmcaster to do so. This is the most random team up ever, like what do these guys have in common? Honestly, yeah, it's dumb, but like, I didn't even care enough to put it on this list, it's more boring than horribly dumb. Eye of the Beholder. I got into this a lot more in my romance vid, but like Hidden Where They Live, it's more bad and boring than dumb. The plot and characters are infuriating, having to save Basil after he stole these Cyclops guys' blue balls. There's so much awful character back and forth and characterization, but as I said, it's more frustrating and bad than dumb. One of the lowest points of UAF, Victor the Spoils. I hate this episode for ruining one of my favorite arcs. So in Who Cares a Stan, Ben is wrapped up in a political civil war where it turns out King Douchebag found Dr. Victor's frozen body. Why is he here? I have no idea. Also, thanks for the horrible redesign. UAF moment. Dr. Victor was the Scare's head minion and one of the ones playing out his plan for world domination to block out the Earth's sun and mutate all life. I love Dr. Victor. He has a unique design and powers, as well as being from the Inner System and his undying loyalty to the Scare. But no, now he's brain dead and serves as a meat puppet for Tsar Pointless to take over and overthrow his civil war. Man, foreign politics! Isn't this so much more interesting than a genius Frankenstein monster? Yeah, one of my favorite villains got turned into a flesh puppet for a plot that literally no one in the world could possibly care about. Thank God Omniverse realized this plot was stupid and backpedaled on it ASAP, restoring Vic to who he once was and actually kind of gave him a character arc. Also shitty mind control. It's a stupid idea, but not stupid enough to get it on the list. Still hate it. Night of the Living Nightmare. This one is more weird than dumb, but Ben randomly wakes up one night to be continually hunted down by his numerous foes and even his friends, many of which don't even speak to him. It's a little dumb, mostly because of the silent treatment Ben got, but it's more weird than dumb if that makes sense. Granted, there were some dumb moments. Hex teleporting in Ben's car after hitchhiking, Vilgax being taken out by a truck, Julie getting team rocketed, and especially Kevin mutating again and seemingly getting killed. Okay, Kevin getting murdered should not have the same energy as Finn punching a bear in Adventure Time.
You killed him!
You killed him!
Also even weirder, randomly it's Albedo's nightmare since he slipped on some smoothies trying to get a brain parasite on Ben? Yeah, this pretty much comes out of nowhere and it doesn't make any sense, but hey, at least we got Ben soloing his aliens in human form. Not too dumb, but enough to get a mention. And the Whining Geyer. You thought it was weird when the Eggman Cometh randomly got environmental? There's a whole story here. Apparently, in an attempt to get rid of the Pacific garbage patch, the US made a weird bacteria thingy to eat it, but it just mutated all the garbage to a weird sapient evil force. Yes, really. There's also mutant seagulls, but I like to believe it's some of Animal's old friends. So the garbage is reanimated and trying to destroy the country. There's also a random X-Files, Mulder and Scully XP, and Kevin really out of nowhere becoming a massive TV guy and tries to make constant Captain Planet references.
That I can't remember the name of? They could harness their rings with the power to recycle. Or clean power, or something.
How can Kevin even watch it? Did Ted Turner send the show in the null void? It also again falls into the trap of trying to spread an environmental message, but solving it in a fictional way, aka just throwing it into the sun. At least they show they only got rid of a small portion of the garbage relatively, but still. Couldn't Upchuck deal with it all? Kinda dumb, but at least was trying to bring a message. And now, the #1 dumbest episode of Ben 10 Ultimate Alien. It's Duped. This is one of the most infamous episodes of this show, and it's well regarded as the worst of the show. Again, bad does not equal dumb, and it would still be awful if it wasn't dumb. But how completely asinine all the character choices and actions are, and that it fundamentally breaks the show, gets it this high. It is one of the most frustrating episodes in the show. So Ben stops to fight some Forever Knights who somehow were taking a tank to the museum with no one noticing, but gets called by Gwen. Wait, where does his phone go when he transformed? Telling him he's late for Julie, his girlfriend's tennis tournament. Ben defends himself saying that he was trying to get there but saw the tank pulling up. Even though unless he was following them the whole time and just stopped them now, he was already late. I can't make too many excuses, he has freaking jet ray. But once he gets there, Ben gets adored with his fans. It was the second episode. And at least it would be understandable, but he doesn't try to shy away from it to get to the seat. He just revels in it, which really sucks and feeds his already terrible ego. Julie is mad at him, which okay, is a little harsh, but again, Ben didn't really seem to really try to get to the game in the first place. Gwen calls him out on it, and he really doesn't care, removing any sympathy he has.
You were late, and when you finally showed up, you made a big entrance and completely blew her concentration.
I can't help if I'm famous, right?
But at least he seemed to want to make it up to her. I swear, Gwen is like the only character who ever seems to care about Julie's well-being. But Kevin thinks the Knights might be up to something, but even Gwen thinks at this point they're such predictable jokes that they aren't a threat. Which is very accurate. But at least there is a legitimate dilemma. That is, until Ben is distracted on his phone hearing of the new Sumo Slammers movie and wants to see it now. Really? Like now? I know Ben is a massive Sumo Slammers fan, that's obvious enough, but like you want to see it now? It has to be like the first premiere, but as far as we know, it's just a standard showing. I get you want to see it, but like you can easily just see it tomorrow. How is the show treating this as a legitimate dilemma? 1, watch the movie tomorrow, like come on, you lose nothing. 2, get Kevin to do a stakeout in the museum, maybe with Gwen too, to check if the Knights are up to something, especially since Kevin never really cared about these games, and beg it stay in the tournament and then just quickly leave when legitimate trouble arises. Like easy solution right there, but no. The episode treats it like this is a legitimate problem for Ben. To think about it, this episode is just a crappy version of It's Not Easy Being Gwen, which was an interesting introspection of Gwen being pulled by her different responsibilities and obligations. But here, everyone's just being stupid. And though gets an idea to clone himself as Echo and turn back, making 3 clones of himself. Oh my god, the episode just drops this with no explanation. Are you kidding me? Ben can do this the whole time? Ben can just clone himself and clone the Omnitrix multiple times? This is literally series breaking. Ben has no reason to ever lose any fight ever again. This is just, why show? This alone gets it this high, like you cannot just break the series this way. But even weirder, this splits Ben's personality. One is a super nice and sensitive Ben, the other is a meaner, arrogant Ben, and one is, I guess, normal? Why this is happening, there is no reason, it's purely for conflict. And even then, the perfect solution is right in front of them. Sensitive Ben stays to support Julie, arrogant Ben fights the Knights, and normal Ben watches the stupid movie. Conflict solved, but no, we gotta add more. So sensitive Ben fights the Knights, and arrogant Ben stays with Julie, and guess what, they all go awfully. Arrogant Ben is a complete ass in Julie's game, taking attention away from her, throwing her off her game, actively implying he's willing to break up with her for a girl he's just met, and yelling that this game is stupid and means nothing.
Come on, it's just a dumb old tennis game. Besides, she was supposed to lose anyway.
God, poor Julie, she goes through too much. She's just a punching bag. Sensitive Ben also isn't doing too hot since, go figure, he's too sensitive to fight his actual enemies. Okay, the one good thing from this episode is Sensitive Ben is pretty funny at times.
Never do that again.
But it turns out the Knights know about the secret piece of ancient alien power armor in the museum, and all the Bens are forced to be together.
I wasn't running from my life. I totally demand an explanation.
Now, this should be easy. 3 Bens, each with an Omnitrix, they can cream this guy. Or hell, go Ultimate, use the freaking gimmick of the series. But no, they freaking suck, constantly messing and hitting each other. Are you serious? Like, actually serious. Just triple humongous or the bastard. So Ben decides, nah, let's never do this again, and fuses back. Are you kidding me? You are never going to use this incredible power ever again because you are an idiot? Oh, well, if 3 different aliens couldn't defeat this thing, who can? Lodestar. God damn it. I hate Lodestar so much, and this is a clear example of why. What, a creative multi-part solutions to a conflict using different alien powers? Nah, we can't do that. Let's just pick the alien whose every fight scene is literally just standing, pointing, and winning. And what does he do here? Stand, point, and win. Freaking riveting. There is no character who has bigger plot armor than this guy. Does any of this look like metal? Any of this? It's all freaking rock. But hey, what better way to end an awful episode with an awful climax? But we're not done with it, as the ending has Julie alone in the stadium disheartened after, you know, everything that happened. But at least she acknowledged that she has to accept that if she dates a superhero, he's gonna get preoccupied. Which, thank God, again, Julie deserves far more credit. People take her one random selfish moment that makes absolutely no sense in the episode out of context and Omniverse's god-awful characterization and go, God, she's so selfish, but no, she never really was. And promises to make it up to her, and she says they can see the Sumo Slammers movie he wants to see together. Literally what I said earlier. Then he admits he saw it during her match, proving to her that he cared more about watching a damn movie than supporting her and his job. And rightfully gets fed up and leaves with everyone else hating Ben. Good job, dipshit. Julie deserves so much better. She's the character done the dirtiest in this show. If this show gets any continuation, could someone please give her something actually good? I can't stand it. And that's how it ends. Everything is terrible because people are stupid. Fun fact, this is the 100th episode of the show. Yes, this train wreck was a celebration of that milestone. What a load. Yeah, this really does earn the title as potentially the worst episode of the series. It's so badly written, infuriating, and asinine, it's amazing no one saw to think, hey, are we really doing this? It's so idiotic and stupid, not only character-wise, but it literally breaks the show. Every decision is so terrible, and it makes it one of the worst experiences in the show. And I think it is undeniably the dumbest episode in Ben 10 Ultimate Alien. Well, that was a trip. Again, I want to say this is not a worst list. I love this show. I have no animosity to it. But while I did say a few episodes are fun and lighten the fandom for reasons, a lot were just plain bad and kind of infuriating. The fact that nearly all of these weren't even arc episodes did up the stigma of Ultimate Alien's quality, and that anything outside of an arc is usually going to be pretty bad. Maybe it was for the best that the show got its fresh coat of paint and attitude in Omniverse, even with its very poor initial perception, though it has gotten a much better appreciation today, even to me. And that's the only series left after this video. But knowing Omniverse, that list's gonna be long, let me tell you. But since this video was just made in response to YouTube being assholes, we'll see when that video will come. I am unironically excited for it, but Ultimate Alien's dumb episodes largely seem to suffer, and probably due to a lack of care and attention plenty of the arc episodes had. I mean, hell, even the ultimate gimmick was barely utilizing the entire show, why bother? Sucks because it was such a big hook in the fandom, with many people wanting to see more. I did just install the ultimate program in my shady tricks, and what the hell, let's try it out.
Ultimate Shady Blaze Blizzard.
We've been duped!
Duped!
Bamboozled!
We've been smeckledorfed.
That's not even a word, and I agree with you. Look,